This week on Luthiers Lunch Break, the first of 2024, Lars Grape returns with the final part in his series of taking a sketch of a guitar through to design. Garland is here with his top tips, this time on clamping devices. We've got Gutierrez looking at CNC. I'm going to show you the technique I use for making pickup cavity routes. Experienced luthier Nick Petrek talks about how to correctly screw in your bolt-on guitar necks. Mr. Glynn's Pickups is going to talk about the difference of using various pots in your guitar. We've got Curtis from Goth Rider Creations with his Cheap Tools for Luthiers series. Lisa from Lab Guitar and Basses is going to show us what she does with her leftover wood. We've got a compilation from the Guitar Builders Collective weekly live stream and a little bit more information on the jurgscup, a guitar building competition for everybody. So let's get on with it.
Hello, my name is Lars, and on today's video we're going to talk about hand drawing versus computer drawing. In this series you saw me use pencil and paper and also a computer to draw the project. And which one is better? Both, actually, for different reasons. Hand drawing is easy to pick up, everyone knows how to use pencil and paper, and the most difficult part is just drawing straight line. Also, the ability to lay out a project or lay out part on pencil and paper will actually be transferred during the course of the build when you actually have to draw things on a guitar for placing a template or for drilling hole is very useful. But it's a pain to then create paper template out of it, because you need to use parchment paper or have, in some case, a big enough print to use, which I don't have, for example. On the other hand, using a software is painful to start and very slowly, but you can take any single part of the project and turn it out into paper template to make templates for your body, be it of the neck, the S-stock, or the body. And over time, with more design, you will start to build this huge library of parts and ideas so that you can mix up different S-stock design with different body design, or different part of the body, or body design with different scale lengths. It's great, it's just hard to start. So my suggestion is do both. Start with hand drawing. If you've never done this, start with hand drawing, and then as soon as you can, learn a software, because you can take that guitar project and put it into a computer. And over time, the two skills will actually come together nicely. For example, in my next project, I had to put this, which are individual saddle for a multi-scale bass with a custom string spacing. And these things are a pain to put, because you need precision, and every time you deal with precision, symmetry and geometry, even a fraction of a millimeter of mistake will be very visible. And when I put this my last 2 or 3 times, it was never perfect. So last time I used my skill on Illustrator to create this, which is simply a paper template that tells me exactly where I need to route the hole for installing this, and I use my hand drawing skill to then put the template right in place. And a job that usually took me an afternoon, it took me, between doing this and the installation, an hour and a half, and it was good at first try. So learn to do both, trust me. And with this we have completed our series on how to go from a sketch to a full-on plan, and I will see you next time.
Like most woodworkers, I guess, I've got a variety of clamps, different sorts, the usual kind of C clamps and F clamps. My favourites, which are cam clamps, which I use a lot in my acoustic guitar work, small spring clamps, that kind of thing. But I wanted to present a few more ideas. As guitar builders, often we need to clamp odd shapes, things which aren't flat necessarily, or square, or just weird shapes. And so here are a few things which can be useful for clamping things together. So I've basically got 3 types of alternative clamps on the bench here. The first is what I'll call the elastic group. I I started with, years ago, I bought some bicycle inner tubes and just cut it up into a strip, elasticated strip, which is handy for, wrapping around irregular shapes like gluing a fingerboard to a neck or a plate to a rim set or something like that. From there I moved on to, I found this sort of bungee cord stuff in a long length. It's not terribly elastic, so it's good in that it works like a rope, but with a slight amount of elasticity in it. But the best thing I've found is actually this surgical tape. What would you call it? No, surgical tube. I've got it in 2 thicknesses. Neither of them are terribly long, but they do a great job because it's got a really good amount of elasticity in it. So for wrapping irregular shapes, anything elastic, even long elastic bands, is handy. The second group is wedges. I've got a little box here of various kinds of wedges which are used for laminate flooring and stuff to, kind of you bash a panel into place with a wedge. I've used these for gluing plates together. You can use wedges to force the glued surfaces together. In fact, these wedges have got uses all over the workshop. I use them a lot, not just for clamping. They can be used to sort of nudge a bit of side into the right place around the outside of a mould, for example, if it's slightly distorted. So that's the second group. The third group, as you can see, are weights, and sometimes they're the simplest kind of clamp you can imagine, but sometimes that's exactly what you need. I use these quite a lot, but the ones I use most are these really big heavy ones. This one is 28 pounds, and I think this one is about the same. Actually, they feel the same to me. They're extremely heavy. If you want to glue a piece of a veneer to a piece of wood, for example, you just put a large, thick plate of wood, plywood or something like that on top to distribute the weight. Stick a couple of these on, and it works brilliantly. I find nail files are very useful for sanding small areas. They're ready-made sanding sticks. They come in different grits. This is one I use for, I've just filled the little gaps under the frets here because I cut back the tang, so you're left with holes which you can fill with the same dust as the wood your fingerboard is made of. And then you can use the nail file to level off. When you've superglued your dust in, you get a little lump on the top, but that's easily leveled off. And because you can use your finger as a fence, it's a very rigid stick. You don't run any danger of running onto the fingerboard, onto the neck, which here is painted. I mean, it's got a coloured finish on it. And you don't want to go into that and expose the wood underneath, so nail files are very good. This one's about materials for shims. So quite often you need a shim to build something up if it's not quite the right size, or if you've, dare I say it, cut something a little bit too short and you just want a tiny amount. I save things like wood from strawberry cartons, which is, a millimetre or millimetre plus thick. You can also get modelling ply, which I've made thin templates out of, and I keep the offcuts from that. If you need, modelling ply comes normally in, I think it's 0.8 millimetres. I have seen it and got little bits down to 0.5 millimetres, which is really good, sometimes just what you need. If you need something even thinner, this kind of coarse brown paper works well. This piece, I think, was on the inside of a roll of wrapping paper, so it's there to kind of keep the wrapping paper from creasing because it's fairly stiff, but also the kind of packing paper you find, I don't know, in Amazon type packages. But this stuff is particularly good because if you completely soak it through with water-based glue, when it hardens, this has got so much wood in it, it acts almost like wood. It is actually very strong, and this is of course a lot thinner. I haven't actually measured it, but it's probably, I don't know, 0.1 or 0.2 perhaps. Yeah, this is 0.15, 0.2 of a millimetre, which is often just the kind of size you need, and you can always build up layers, of course, that's obvious, but anyway, I just thought that was worth a mention. Well, that was it for this time round. Until next time, goodbye for now.
So now the next steps are to do the neck pocket. This is going to be 4 operations, I think. Yeah, 4 operations. So the first thing we do is a hog out. This is a 3D adaptive hog. And the next thing we do is a channel route. So essentially this part right here, where the lower horn meets with the neck pocket, is super thin material, right? And it's very fragile. So what I do is I have a trace path, right? And it looks like this. And so the end mill goes down just a few millimeters and does this back and forth, up, down, cut. And it creates a little channel here, right? So this trace path comes into play when we start doing the contour of the shape. So right when it gets there, we retain this super sharp point that's very fragile, and it doesn't break off when we're doing these contour paths. Alright, so neck pocket is complete. So just to recap, we did a hog out, just a 3D adaptive hog that removes all the meat from in there. The next thing we do is we follow a trace for this little squiggly bit. And this basically ensures that when we eventually do the contour, when that end mill comes in, it has less material to eat through, so that this fine tip here, where the lower horn meets the neck pocket, doesn't break off and it remains sharp and rigid. So this helps prevent any kind of breakout here. And this goes all the way down to the floor. The next operation is a finishing pass on the wall, so it goes all the way around. So the first hog out leaves about 1/2 mil, and then the finishing pass removes that 1/2 mil all the way around really slowly, so you get a nice clean edge. And then the last operation is a horizontal finishing pass, also ensuring that the floor is perfectly smooth and flat. So this is just beautiful right now. We're saving time here, so typically you'd normally want to remove all this meat and test your neck. But this is quick and dirty, so we're just not going to waste time machining all that wood out. There's no point. We know that this neck pocket's going to work.
Are you looking for an excuse to build a guitar? Or do you just want to be part of the community and see other people's builds? Why not take part in the jurgscup? It's a community build-along where anyone can take part by simply sharing your builds either as photos or videos on social media and using the hashtag jurgscup. The build-along is named after Jürgen Zoller of Zoller Guitars, a valued member of the Guitar Builders Collective who regularly commented on other people's builds, giving them encouragement and ideas and helping to start conversations. The whole point of this build-along is not a competition, but to grow the community, to make online friends, to share ideas and inspire others. By following the hashtag jurgscup, you can see other builds and engage in conversations in the comments section. You can add your content and get feedback from others. This year's competition ends on the 23rd of April, with next year's one starting the day after. At the end of April, we at the Guitar Builders Collective will be asking you to send us some photos of your guitar, even if it's not finished. And then over on our Instagram page, we will be sharing the submissions from everybody, giving everybody a chance to see your work, to go follow your social media pages, and to engage in conversation with you, as we hope you will with them. Perhaps you've already started a build and you want to share what you've done with others. Well, just start using that hashtag now. Jürgen was a friendly and supportive guy, and to help commemorate him, this competition will be friendly and supportive too. If you want to, you can buy a Zoller Guitars t-shirt, the proceeds of which go to leukemia charities, or even make a small donation yourself. Wearing the t-shirts will help spread the word of the competition too. But you can do that by sharing this post and others on your social media, in your forums, and with anyone you know that might be interested. Everyone is welcome, and if you're stuck for inspiration, this year we have an optional theme: use what you've got. You can find out more via the Guitar Builders Collective forum, the Instagram page, or our Facebook group.
In this video I want to show you how I install a neck on a bolt-on instrument. It's very important that the hole for the screws in the body don't have too much friction. You have to put them very easily. In most cases the holes are too tight. Here's another hack, a very important one. If you put in a screw, you have to turn it first left, and then you hear this click, and then you can screw it in. And I always screw it in by hand. Don't use any power tools. So this is how I try to avoid any damage by doing this. And if you like that content, please let me know. Check out my YouTube channel. There are a lot of extended guitar repair videos. This is a DIY project from one of my customers with a lot of cracks going on in the neck pocket, and the screws are over tightened. And this is a common issue, and it's because the holes in the body for the screws are too small. So if you see threads, it's not a good sign, because if you want to apply the amount of pressure you need to hold the neck in place, you will surely over tighten the screws. This is what you see here. So I have to repair that. I re-drill the holes in the neck, make some wood doubles, glue them in. And this is really an issue I see a lot, even on factory-wise new guitars. The holes are too small. What I'm doing here, I re-drill the hole so that the screw fits perfectly without any pressure through the holes. You see, it's a lot of work to repair this simple issue. So we have the neck and we have the body, and we want to connect them. We have to drill a hole and we put in a screw. Option 2 is we drill a hole and we expand the hole in the body. So if you put in the screw, it works like a clamp, and that's what we are looking for. You can apply much more pressure on the neck and the body. Now I have to center out the neck. I'm using an old G-string as a straight edge. I'm marking the new positions for the neck screws in the neck. Checking out the diameter is very important. I'm making these holes, and when I finish that, I just break the edge of the holes. I'm using a little bit soap to reduce the friction for the screws when I screw them in for the first time. Thanks for watching, and please check out my other videos.
Hi, I'm Glyn. This is Mr. Glyn's Pickups. I've just been working on some Jazzmaster pickups and they're in my test guitar here, which is ugly. And I thought I'll make a short video just to show you the difference between 1 meg pots, which is what this would use, 500k pots and 250k pots. It's very easy for me to swap components in and out of this guitar, so I thought I'd just do it. Now this is going straight into the amp. It's a bit noisy. This is a test guitar, hey? Just have a listen. So that's 1 meg. Now, by the amazing powers of editing, I am now using a 500k pot. Incidentally, this is the neck pickup. This is my prototype vintage Jazzmaster pickups. Okay, 500k. Okay, 250k pots. So hopefully you'll hear the difference there. I could hear it quite clearly. I could feel the difference too. There's so much more sparkle with the 1 meg pots. So there you are. First it was the 1 meg, then the 500, then the 250k. You can hear what a difference it makes to the guitar. The volume control acts differently as you turn it down as well. It's kind of hard to demo that. There we are. I'll get back to work.
Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and welcome to another exciting episode of How to Make Your Own Lutherie Tools on the Cheap. Now today we are going to be making guitar shielding paint, and for this you will need a sheet of paper and all of the old pencils that you've been saving for a rainy day for some reason, or one of these impressively useless mechanical builder's pencils. So first, take the lid out of that useless thing, get your file, and then grind down the graphite rod into a fine powder. If you don't have a file, take some coarse sandpaper and sand the rod down into a fine powder. If you have the small pencils that you stole from Argos or the bookies or IKEA or wherever, take your pencil sharpener and then sharpen down until there's not much pencil left. Be careful to remove all of the wood shavings, leaving just the graphite behind. And don't forget to tell your significant other that you actually found a use for them and that you weren't an idiot for stealing them all those years ago. They will be really impressed and will be so proud of you. If you're using the large builder's pencils, then take a sharp knife and carefully whittle away the wood until you can expose the graphite core. Then carefully shave the graphite core into a fine powder. Then take a small baggie and transfer all that fine powder into it. Be careful to make sure you've removed any white powder or any green vegetable flakes from the bag first. Finally, you'll need a sealable pot, some acrylic paint, and your graphite powder. Fill the pot about halfway with the paint. If it is quite thick, put a few drops of water in to loosen it up. Then, taking another of your spare pencils as a stirrer, carefully stir in all of the graphite powder, making sure you get a nice smooth consistency. Ideally, you would like to see some of the graphite come through as a fine silver paste. And there you have it. Take care, everyone. See you next time.
Hey everyone, I'm Lisa from Lab Guitars and Basses, and normally I make full-size guitars, but I just finished making this adorable little mini guitar, and Daniel invited me to show you how I made it. So the idea was that I was going to make these little statues of my guitar and bass models, and each one was going to be out of a single piece of wood and just be really simplistic, focusing on the shape. Then my friend saw that I was making them, and he asked if I could make a mini version of his guitar. So I built this guitar for him a couple years ago. Of course, I still had the cutoffs of his guitar, so I made this out of that. As with everything else I do, this took a lot longer than I was expecting. But as I was making it, I thought of some ways that I could maybe change the process next time, so I'm going to try that out. But for now, here's how I made this one.
The Guitar Builders Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of Guitar Building Chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi.
It was one of the first times I did a multi-scale. And I showed my mom this guitar, and she, yeah, that's real nice. I like it. Isn't it? Then she was like, do you know the frets aren't straight?
Yeah. Excellent.
Wow.
Out of interest, you said you were at the neck carving stage. Does that mean you always do things in the same order when you're making?
Yeah, good question. Probably for the neck, I was talking to someone else about this the other day. So the neck sequence, it has been the same. Like I'm trying to think of the order now. Right, yeah. So attaching, like the process of attaching the fretboard, then radiusing the fretboard when it's already on the neck. Polishing, installing the frets before I then carve the neck. So that process, probably the last. Actually, the last 5 builds. Sort of once I've sort of hit my stride with it. The next, it probably is the same process for me. I kind of like you're doing all the fretboard radiusing and the fret installation. I really like having that flat back of the neck. So when you're banging, I don't have a fret press. That's all by hand. So I just kind of like that the whole neck blank is solid when you're putting all that in, just so you can get them in as tight as possible. And I sort of probably go when I'm sort of doing the body work backwards and forwards between what I want to sort of do. So often I'll do the neck. I've predominantly done bolt-on neck guitars, so I normally do the neck pocket before I've carved the back of the neck. So that's what I did before the carving, because then I just like knowing I can run 2 straight edges along all the side of the neck, and I know that I haven't changed it. Or with the carve on the back has sort of interfered with anything. So often, like some of the builds, I'll get the whole neck done before even doing a lot on the body. But often it's when I go between the neck and the body, it's kind of like often it's what I don't want to do. Next is like I can't be bothered, radiusing and setting that fretboard. I'm going to go and do some work on the body for the next few weekends. So that's where my decision making comes in for the next step. If it's not like a crucial step or an order that I really like, it comes down to often avoiding the things that I don't want to do.
Oh yeah, I'm exactly the same. Do what you feel like doing that day sometimes.
Yeah, but some of those tasks you never really feel like doing.
In fact, when you see the video of how I thickness this neck circular saw, I was like, I'm not going to use a Shinto rasp for all of that material. So set a depth stop on a circular saw and just cut loads of lines and then went diagonals and then took the last bit off.
For me, like if I just build it the way I want, I build really big necks. Like I love like the old 52U like Telecaster chunky baseball back necks. Those are my favorite. And if someone leaves me to myself to do it, that's what they're going to get.
I really notice when people ask me to make guitars, them being too concerned about, like, no one ever says to me, really, I want this particular fretboard radius. They often say I want a thin neck, but they never really mention the radius. But they often talk about the pickups they want for their style of music. So
I bet most guitarists have no idea that the fretboard is radiused.
It's just like the compound radius where everyone, that there for a while, that was all anybody wanted. And no one could ever tell me why they wanted it.
Yeah.
I think most just want as many bells and whistles as possible.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah. I think neck carving, it always, I'm really apprehensive. Once I start carving the neck, I really enjoy it. But it seems strange to me that it's almost the first stages are the most nervous for me, when you sort of mark it all up and you're taking the Shinto rasp to it, and all the aggressive stuff that because when you think about, as a guitar player, the neck is such a fine-tuned part of it, and I always feel really nervous when I'm just hogging away in those first steps. It's like, have I measured this right? Am I going too deep? Am I, I'm putting gouges in that when I get it to the fine level, that those gouges are going to be below the level of what I want. So it's kind of like, I reckon I'm the opposite sometimes. It's the early stages of carving that I get really nervous, and then when I get to the finer stages, I'm kind of a bit more relaxed, and that's the therapeutic part, I think.
I've noticed recently, carving seems to just go by. I like to, despite the fact that it's multi-laminate and the chances of that being moving are slim to none, I like to get the initial facets done super soon, before the fretboard even goes on. So you still got a flat, surface to clamp to, but you've removed as much as possible. So if it does want to move, it'll do what it'll do. Once that's done, when it comes time to actually do the carve, I mean, it really takes very little work. It just goes by. Just recently, I've noticed it just seems to, it used to be a big deal, and now you cut it up into two different pieces, and I mean, it just flies by.